Joe Rogan was talking about Volkanovski, and he had beautiful things to say. And he said that Volkanovski is the number one fighter, pound for pound, in the world. And Joe said they don't have him ranked as number one in the world because he lost to Islam. And Joe went on to say you easily could have said he won the Islam fight, which is true. I mean, that was a controversial decision. So let's look at that, though. Because what do you do there? I also have Volkanovski as number one. And I don't bring into it that they should have raised his hand against Islam. I accept the outcome of that match. And even if I did it, I wouldn't bring it into it. I've never liked that. I don't know why we're having matches if we're not going to agree to settle the dispute here, right? I mean, it's the ultimate form. It is the rules of the People's Court. Do you guys remember that TV show? They go in, it was a staged TV show, it was a real dispute. But this guy that was no longer a judge or had power would preside over it as though it was an actual courtroom. But do you remember this? And their whole slogan is this is the People's Court. They agree to have their dispute settled here in the People's Forum. The People's Court. Don't. Do you remember this? It's only, I mean, the octagon is the ultimate for that. So whether you agree with the decision or you don't, you must live with the decision and you must respect the decision, in my opinion. In my opinion, you can always have a conversation about it. But when you're having an active ranking and you have a head-to-head match, you have to respect it. Now, I still have Volk as number one because it's pound for pound. That match was close enough, even with him coming in second. That was competitive enough. He won more rounds in that fight than every UFC competitor versus Islam combined. He won 2 rounds. Islam has not lost 2 total rounds in his UFC career. And the one fight where he got caught and knocked out, I'm saying he lost that round. That's also the only round that he's ever lost. So, Volk being the smaller guy, I give it to Volk. I give pound for pound to Volk. There's my argument. I think that's reasonable. I don't know that you guys would disagree with me, but I do bring in the philosophy and the concept because I think more people side with Joe than they do with me. They talk about what should have happened or what could have happened. And I don't really know why we go down that road. I had an argument one time. I said, "Oh, Chael, you hate Anderson Silva, and you'll never say anything nice about Anderson Silva." I was like, I don't think that's true about myself. But I do hear that Anderson was better than Adesanya, to which I have to remind you, they fought. They fought head-to-head, and Adesanya won. And I will get pushed back on, but Anderson wasn't in his prime, which, first off, you would have no way to know. You would have no way to know. That's just a weird thing to even say, considering he's still competing. This was so many years ago. Like, guys that leave their prime don't compete 6 years later, but he is. So it's a weird thing to say. But it could be true. Let's accept it. It still implies that Adesanya was. And you wouldn't know if Anderson was. You wouldn't know. But you wouldn't know if Adesanya was. Which is why, if you have a head-to-head competition, you must respect the result. And the all-time rankings don't do that. They pay homage. We have a habit of doing that as human beings. We will always hold those who came before us in higher regard than we hold ourselves or we hold our own time. It's called nostalgia. It's called respect. Nothing wrong with it. I just share it for you. If we're not going to respect those outcomes, I think it's tough. Jon Jones is a smaller heavyweight champion. He's not the smallest. I believe Randy Couture to be the smallest heavyweight champion. Weighed in as light as 222 pounds. But Stipe Miocic would be right there when he weighed in at 231. Shocked everybody. He'd be right there. You could go way back. I think Bas Rutten was closer to 217. I think Kevin Randleman was about 208. But I'm kind of talking like more modern times. And if Jon was to lose, let's say, to Sergey Pavlich, but then we do a ranking and we say, no, Jon's number one, pound for pound. He gave up 40 pounds. I kind of got to scratch my head and go, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree. They're in the same weight class. We didn't make the rules. The rules were set. We saw the ride. We bought the ticket anyway. They're the same weight class. And you're also right if you say they're 40 pounds different. That's true. But they're in the same weight class. That's also true. If they went head-to-head, just by example. By the way, I think Jon beats him. Not at all my point. My point being, if we're not going to recognize the contest after the contest happens, why are we having them? It's one of those things. Like, if we know who the better guy is, or we're just convinced and that's what we're going to say anyway, just mail him the medal. Just send him the check. What are we traveling the circus around and setting the tent up and popping the popcorn for? I think it's a reasonable question by me. And I think you're going to have a very good answer. I think more people are going to side on the other part of this, where you think you do know what you're looking at. You do know who's in his prime. No, you don't. Humbly, respectfully. No, I don't mean that. Condescendingly and arrogantly, you don't know who's in their prime. You don't know whose best years are ahead of them right now. You don't know Max Holloway's in his prime, just for example. He's done some amazing work and even been called the greatest ever. But if you look at his age, his best days are still in front of him, particularly when you see how healthy Max is, by example. Sean Strickland, same category. To make believe as though Adesanya's best days are behind him, you don't know. You don't know that. You only have what they say. That's how we do this sport. You have two willingful volunteers that raise their hand saying, I can beat him. I am better than him. We take those people at their word and then we put them into the octagon. I suggest for you, out of sportsmanship if nothing else, we honor the result of the contest.